Hello, you wonderful people. So for today's video, I'm going to talk about the official trailer that came out for You, Season 4, Part 1. If you haven't seen it already, I'll include a link to it in the description down below. But obviously, picking up where Season 3 left off, we have Joe still trailing after Marianne. And I think it's so interesting that she's such a small part of the trailer. So that makes me wonder, is she going to be an even bigger part of the story in Part 2? Or does something happen to her in Part 1? Because, I mean, he finds someone else. He's like, oh, he found another person, but I mean, it's Joe, so it makes sense. Because that still happened even last season when he was being married to Love and everything. But he's doing the whole teaching thing now, and obviously he's kind of teaching very like snobbish kids, but it's like, yeah, he actually enjoys the work. But what I thought was so fascinating is that his latest obsession ended up kind of putting him in the middle, kind of what seems like a murder mystery, which is interesting, because now the shoe is on the other foot, because like someone gets killed and now he's thinking like whoever it is, the killer, also it's like, oh, they know exactly who Joe is, so he's kind of on the other foot. Like the roles have been reversed, that now instead of him being the predator that he is, he's kind of the prey. I mean, to be fair, I guess you could make the argument that was a very similar dynamic to Love, but that's not where things started. This dynamic is starting like that, and so there's a wolf in sheep's clothing amongst like the students, and he's almost trailing, and they're like, they almost seem like there's all these papers on a board, and it's like, it's that kind of like a murder mystery board thing that he's got going on, and his quiet life as a teacher has kind of come unraveled. I mean, obviously every life that Joe creates for himself becomes upheaval, whether it's Season 1, Season 2, and Season 3. So I think that's such a fascinating situation to be in now, and especially because it is split, I am curious to see where like Part 1 of the season, where they're going to decide to like where that's going to split happen. I'm curious, is that something they did by choice, or was it just like the back half of the season isn't done, so they need more time to finish it? Because it's like literally dropping the next month in March, after the first part drops in February, so I don't know. I mean, we still seem like what we saw Joe over some dead bodies, so I don't know whether that's something of his own making or whether that's him trying to examine the bodies to get a better understanding of who is in front of him. So he's always kind of, you know, Joe's always thought of himself better than like the people he kind of gets mixed up in across every season, and these students are no different, but now he realizes one of them knows who he is and is kind of stalking him. So like I said, the role is being reversed. So I think it's such an interesting direction they're going to be taking this season. I mean, despite everything, we do know that Joe is pretty smart and he's very good at kind of figuring things out. So him kind of playing the Sherlock Holmes as like one of the characters kind of jokes like, oh, what are you, like some like wannabe Sherlock Holmes or something like that. So it feels kind of almost befitting for, I mean, especially because it's like, yeah, it takes kind of a psycho to get into the head of another psycho. So I don't know if this is going to be like a, I doubt we're going to end up in a love situation where there's like this person is kind of disturbed and they latch on to Joe. I'm curious to find out who they are and why. How do they know so much about Joe? Have they been following Joe the entire time, that he just wasn't aware that he had a stalker the entire time? Probably not. Or maybe it's just someone that's followed him ever since he's been here. So questions like that, I'm so curious to get the answer to. I'm really excited to see what ends up happening in this season, both Part 1 and Part 2, and how this ultimately all ends up playing out. But obviously, these are just some of my thoughts. I'd love to get to know yours in the comments down below. What did you think of the trailer? What are some things you want to see from this season? What are some things you expect to see from this season? Let me know. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.